My dear students of class 11th, and today in your botany we are going to take up imbibition and long distance transport of water. And previously we have talked about plasmolysis and we are in general discussing the transport in the plants. And now today we will take up what is meant by the imbibition, and also we will discuss the long distance transport of water, how water is carried to long distances, that is tall trees, and how is it maintained and what are the various theories related to this. They will be discussed in the subsequent classes. And now the imbibition. Imbibition is a special type of diffusion when water is absorbed by colloids or solids, causing them to enormously increase in volume. Again, imbibition is a special type of diffusion when water is absorbed by solids or colloids, causing them to enormously increase in volume. The classical example of the imbibition are the absorption of the water by seeds and dry wood. You must be knowing when seeds are to germinate, they have to absorb water. The seed coat absorbs the water by the process of imbibition, and then the seeds are able to germinate. The pressure that is produced by swelling of the wood when it absorbs water had been used by prehistoric man to separate rocks and boulders. If it were not for the pressure due to imbibition, seedlings would not have been able to emerge out of the soil into the open. They probably would not have been able to establish. Imbibition is also diffusion, since water movement is along a concentration gradient. The seed's concentration gradient, you must be remembering, is the movement along from higher concentration to lower concentration, whether it is the movement of water from higher water potential to lower water potential, and this is referred to as the concentration gradient. The seeds and the other such materials have almost no water, hence they absorb water easily. Water potential gradient between the absorbent and the liquid imbibed is essential for imbibition. In addition, for any substance to imbibe any liquid, affinity between the adsorbent and the liquid is also a prerequisite. And now, the long distance transport of water. In the lower classes, you must have some time in your lower class. You must have placed a twig bearing white flowers in colored water and had watched it turn colored. On examining the cut end of the twig after a few hours, you had noticed that the region through which the colored water moved. That experiment was very easily demonstrated that the path of the water movement is through the vascular bundles. You must be remembering during the anatomy we have talked a lot about these vascular bundles when we studied the transverse sections of the stem and roots and leaves also. More specifically, the movement of the water is through the xylem. Now we have to go further and try and understand the mechanism of the movement of water and other substances of a plant, because long distance transport of the substances within a plant cannot be by diffusion alone. Diffusion is a slow process. It can account for only short distance movement of molecules. For example, the movement of the molecule across a typical plant cell, about 50 micrometer, takes approximately 2.5 seconds. At this rate, if we calculate, it will take years for the movement of the molecules over a distance of 1 meter within a plant by diffusion alone. So the diffusion is not the way by which the long distance transport is maintained in the plants. In large and complex organisms, often substances have to be moved across very large distances. Sometimes the sites of the production or the absorption and the sites of the storage are too far from each other. Diffusion or active transport would not suffice. This is not sufficient. Diffusion is not sufficient. Here, special long distance transport systems become necessary. So, as to move substances across long distances and at a much faster rate, water and minerals and food are generally moved by a mass or bulk flow system. Mass flow is the movement of the substances in bulk or in mass from one point to another as a result of the pressure differences between 2 points. It is a characteristic of mass flow that substances, whether in solution or in suspension, are swept along at the same pace as in a flowing river. This is unlike diffusion, where different substances move independently depending on their concentration gradients. Bulk flow can be achieved either through a positive hydrostatic pressure gradient, for example a garden hose, or negative hydrostatic pressure gradient, for example suction through a citra. Hope you must be understanding this easily, grasping this easily. A garden hose where as to water is to pour in that gets easily into this is a positive pressure gradient, hydrostatic pressure gradient, and where we have to suck the solution or water through a straw, we have to exert pressure, and that is the negative pressure gradient. And now the bulk movement of the substances through the conducting of the vascular tissues of plants is called as translocation. So when we previously studied the cross section of the roots and the stems and the leaves of higher plants and studied their vascular systems, we could easily recognize the xylem that is meant for the conducting of the water and the phloem that is meant for the conducting of the different food materials which are being prepared during the process of photosynthesis. And xylem is associated with translocation of mainly water, mineral salts, and some organic nitrogen and hormones from roots to aerial parts of the plants. The phloem translocates a variety of the organic and inorganic solutes, mainly from the leaves to other parts of the plants. And now, what are the various theories related? That will be discussed, inshallah, in the forthcoming classes. Thanks. Have a nice day.